Well, good morning, friends. I hope you're all doing well. I just want to share some thoughts with you. Several of you have expressed how this experience has made you anxious, and I get it. It's hard not to be anxious about what the future holds, to walk into those grocery stores and see bare shelves, to wonder how long we're going to have to distance ourselves from others. But I can't help but notice, and maybe you've noticed it too, that in the midst of this outbreak, when our normal day-to-day lives have been disrupted, some beautiful things have been happening. Neighbors are taking care of each other, checking in on each other, picking up groceries for those who cannot get out. People are hard at work making face masks for the hospitals. Kids who can't celebrate their birthdays during this time are being celebrated through parades and card showers. I've seen a lot of people out picking up trash. I saw several kids in our neighborhood just out walking and riding their bikes. There seems to be a lot less negative talk, that divisive behavior, that blame shifting and finger pointing that we so often see, especially on social media. We're seeing a lot less of that. And we're seeing a lot more praying and positive thoughts and encouragement being shared with one another. People are loving their neighbors in a way that we have never seen before. And in our house, we're trying to make the most of our time together. We are moving at a slower pace than we have been. We sit together several times throughout the day, and we have rich conversations. We're doing devotions every morning together. We are getting out and walking when it's not raining. We're playing games. We're sharing more meals at home. And it's been a beautiful thing. And I think many families are growing closer to one another. And people, society, in spite of the social distancing, are actually becoming more connected. And so my challenge to you today is to accentuate the positive, just like the song. Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch onto the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. But before Johnny Mercer and Perry Como sang that song, Paul actually had something to say about this, about focusing on the good, about thinking about such things. And he wrote about this in the Philippians. He wrote a letter to the church in Philippi, and he was dealing with division in the church. And when there is negativity and division in the church and even in society, it's often because anxiety and fear and worry are driving the wheel. So Paul tells them how to overcome that. And in Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, he says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." I will say it again, rejoice. "Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So the Greek word for anxiety means to pull in different directions, which makes sense. Peace tends to pull us in one direction, and anxiety pulls us in a completely different direction. The word worry, the Old English root for the word, actually means to strangle. And isn't that exactly what worrying does? Is it suffocates us. It's debilitating. It's no wonder that anxiety and worry and fear can actually cause physical damage to our bodies. But if I told you to quit worrying, you would say, easier said than done. I get it. But how do we conquer it? And Paul tells us in this passage how to do so. He says we need to develop the right praying, the right thinking, and the right living. So right praying involves the things that he discusses in that first part of the passage. It involves adoration, realizing that God is greater than all our problems. And then earnestly and intentionally sharing our problems with God, kind of giving them over to him. And then thanksgiving, having an attitude of gratitude. Right thinking involves the next part of the text. It says, beginning with verse 8, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. So these things not only remind us of the goodness of God, but it diverts our attention from the things that we allow ourselves to be consumed by. So right thinking, right praying, and then verse 9 talks about right living. Verse 9, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. You know, your inward attitude is often demonstrated in your outward action. If you are filled with fear and worry and anxiety, it's probably going to be evident in the way you act and behave. If you're filled with peace and joy, it will probably become evident in the way you act and behave. So if we exalt God as the ultimate over everything, if we give our anxieties to God instead of trying to nurture them or muddle through them ourselves, if we remember to give thanks to God for what we have, and focusing on what is true, what is noble, what is right, what is pure, what is lovely, what is admirable and praiseworthy, all of that flows through us and is made evident to others. And it creates a ripple effect. And we're seeing that happen before our very eyes. So I hope you'll sit with that today. Meditate on those verses, Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 9. And friends, be safe, do good, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Thank you, and have a blessed day.